Hello, my name's Bart Walsh and I'm the training gym head coach at Jets Australia. My story is an interesting one, and I think it's good to preface this story that I consider myself a very lucky person, and I've always considered myself a very lucky person. I've also considered luck being this idea of preparation meeting opportunity, and because of what's happened to me, my perception on luck and life and fitness has changed for the better, I think. And it's an important thing to recognize before we go into the details of it. I want to take you back to 2014. I was living a very bohemian lifestyle. I just finished acting school. I was 2 years out. I was doing a few gigs on television, a few live shows, theatre shows, mainly up and down the east coast of Australia. Every year back then I volunteered for a youth leadership conference. And I remember very vividly finishing this conference on a high. We always finished the conference with an incredible closing ceremony. And I remember on the tram back home, I felt a small lump under my jaw. I didn't think it was anything at the time. And then it started to grow. And me being a typical male, a typical 23-year-old male, I thought nothing of it until it grew to about the size of a baseball, and I thought I would get it checked. The first doctor I went to just wanted to cut it out. He said, yep, that's just some sort of growth, let's get it out there, the sooner the better. The day before the operation, I got a call saying, hey, the doctor had to go on a quick holiday. I didn't quite understand what that meant, but I didn't have that operation and went to see and get a second opinion. And I went through all the tests, did the biopsy, did all the CAT scans, the MRIs, the whole lot, and finished with a PET scan. And I got diagnosed with two things. One was a condition called neurofibromatosis, which affects my limbs, so I can't really feel below my knee, and I often get numb hands. But in terms of that diagnosis, it's not as severe as it could be. A lot of people with this condition grow these lumps on their nerves from birth, and often they don't make it past 12. If they make it past 12, they often don't make it past 50. So I had a very mild case of this condition. But I also got diagnosed with a malignant peripheral nerve sheath tumour. I was 23 years old and didn't quite know how to process this news. So within the next week, a game plan had to be in play. Because it was growing so fast, at this time it was about the size of a baseball, 10.2 centimetres in diameter. We had to move fast because it was growing quite quickly. And we decided to operate. And with the operation, they took out 12 centimetres of my jaw, just below the joint to just below the midline here. They took out the floor of my mouth, my teeth on the bottom side of my mouth. They took out a third of my tongue and a bit of my throat. And they replaced that bone with my left fibula. So they took the bone out of the leg and shoved it in my face, and then from there they took a lot of tissue from my quad and a lot of skin grafts from my leg as well. So it was a big operation that wasn't just localized to the jaw. Arguably my leg gave me more issue than my rehab on my jaw. But I think the hardest part of this process was the radiation therapy afterwards. If anyone knows what that process is like, it's probably the closest thing to hell. You get zapped with this awful radiation every day for 6 weeks. It makes you incredibly sick. I had ulcers littered throughout my mouth. I was on so many medications to deal with the pain, to deal with the nausea, to deal with everything. So I was in a pretty bad way. And by this time it was April of 2014. And I remember it quite vividly. The night before the operation, Mum came into my room and asked me what I want to eat, because I was very aware that I wouldn't be eating solid foods for the next 3 months. And I got the dirtiest Big Mac you could think of. I put chips in it, I put extra sweet and sour sauce in there, sandwiched it all together and downed it, which was a rookie mistake because I felt so awful the next morning. But at least I know that that was the last time I had anything from McDonald's, which I'm very proud of. So I was in a pretty bad way. I look back on the photos now and I almost don't see myself. It was a completely different person. I had my radiation therapy. I got through that. I lost about 14 kilos. So I was 70 kilos when I went in for the operation and was dropping down to just under 60 at this time. And for a guy that's into his health and fitness, that was absolutely devastating. And I remember all I could do was walk, and it was at this point that I gained a real respect for the practice of mindful walking. So I walked. That was my exercise until I could lift a barbell, and I started this progress or this process right from the beginning. It was at this point that I decided and that I found this love of fitness is what's going to get me through. So I quickly did my certs. I studied as fast as I could, and I wanted to get in front of people so that I could help them. But it wasn't until a few years ago that I figured out that why I do what I do now is because I don't want people to be where I was. So I got into the gym scene. I started training clients one-on-one. I started getting in front of people, and I soon realized that this hobby, now career, has turned into an obsession. And so for the last 5 years, for the last 6 years, I've dedicated myself to understanding how the body responds to stimulus. And this obsession, I wouldn't have any other way, especially in times like this. I'm very grateful for what I know, and I'm very grateful for my own body. I've seen it go through some incredible things. I've seen it respond to stimulus that I didn't think it could respond to. In my rehab, I had to learn to talk again, and I had to learn to swallow again, which is a really confronting process and a very frustrating process. When I was an actor, I studied voice, and every day we spent 2 or 3 hours rolling on the floor, finding resonance, finding how to use our voice in the most advantageous way to convey stories and to convey information. And hearing my voice after my operation was one of the hardest things that I think I've ever witnessed. I couldn't help but just break down. You spend so much time building something up that's going to help you, and you believe it's going to help you do what you want to do and be who you want to be, and then having it torn away in a split second is awful. It's just awful. The really interesting thing about this story is that the first doctor I saw, the one that wanted to just cut it out, and then gave me a call up the day before saying, hey, I'm going on holiday, was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. I later found out if they had just cut it out without the radiation and just with the operation, I probably wouldn't be here. The cancer cells would still be in me, they'd proliferate really quickly, and as far as I can tell, these cancers often come back to the lungs, and once you have them in your lungs, it's a very rough time from there. So that being said, I consider myself very lucky. And because of that, I've become stronger, more resilient, and more thankful for everything. It's difficult for me sometimes to try and describe this in words. But everything we have, everything we do, every person we talk to, every opportunity that comes to us is so precious, and every opportunity that comes to us is the opportunity for another opportunity to happen after that. And I never would have started thinking this way if all these things didn't happen to me. When I was an actor, I had a monologue, and it was my go-to monologue. It got me a lot of roles, and I remember it to this day, not because of what it gave me or what was said in it, but the message that's in that paragraph. And the monologue goes, do you want to know why human beings are different to other animals? And it's not because of opposable digits, and it's not because of the epiglottis. A human being can hold its hand in the heat of a flame and willingly choose to keep it there. every other animal reacts. We choose where to go, we choose what to eat, we choose what to wear, we choose who to love and whether to tell them. And if we do not choose, we are consciously choosing not to choose. And I'm a strong believer in positive choices and positive actions informing other positive actions. And I think that's why I love fitness so much. It relates to every other aspect of our life, and it teaches us lessons that go beyond the gym. And I believe that not only every Jets member, but every member around the world deserves to know that, and they deserve to know how to find these beautiful nuggets within their own body. We actively put ourselves under pressure to get better. I've gone through some pretty bad things, and at the time I had a lot of questions and I didn't know if I was going to come through it. Once you do go through it, once you do come out the other end, all of a sudden everything becomes clear. And with fitness you do that, half an hour, 45 minutes at a time. Fitness is wonderful. Yeah.